Welcome to today's virtual Cabinet meeting. Before we start the formal business of the meeting, I must remind you that the audio of this meeting is being live broadcast on the Council's website and that the video of the meeting will be published afterwards. I would first of all like to introduce the officers supporting today's meeting. The councillors in attendance will be introduced shortly. We have Mike Hill, Chief Executive, David Wakeling, Director of Health and Community Wellbeing, Mike Avery, Assistant Director for Planning and Regeneration, Francesca Wiley, Service Manager for Legal Services, and Lewis Widdowson, Planning Officer, and finally myself, Caroline McCleary, Democratic Services Officer and Clerk of the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Caroline. So welcome, as I think Caroline's already said, to Thursday, 10th of December Cabinet meeting. And I'll just first of all deal with apologies for absence. So in terms of apologies for absence, we do have apologies from Councillor John Clark, Leader of the Council, who is otherwise engaged in a ministerial meeting with government in relation to the tier structure system and the COVID related issues, and will be joining us as soon as that meeting finishes, but it does start at the same time as this meeting. So as I say, Councillor Clark will be joining us as soon as practically possible. Caroline, I don't think there are any other apologies.
No other apologies received, Chair. If just for the purpose of the recording, could I just confirm which councillors are actually present? So we have Councillor Michael Payne, Councillor Peter Barnes, Councillor David Ellis, Councillor Gary Gregory, Councillor Jenny Hollingsworth, Councillor Viv McCrossan, and Councillor Henry Wheeler. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 12th of November 2020. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes that anybody wants to raise? Not seeing any indication, so I'll move those minutes, and in so doing, I just want to put on record, on behalf of the Leader of the Council, John Clark, myself, the Cabinet, and I think the entire Council, a thank you to the residents and businesses of Gedling. Remarkable achievement over the last few weeks since the peak of the second wave in terms of coronavirus. At the end of October, we were facing 438.5 cases per 100,000 in Gedling, and that has now fallen to below 124 cases per 100,000, as I understand it today, which is nearly an 80% decrease in the number of cases per 100,000. And that, without a shadow of a doubt, is due to the collective efforts of all of the residents across Gedling Borough and the businesses who have played their part in trying to control the virus, which we know has taken its toll in terms of the impact on society, businesses and our local communities over this year. So as we come to this year's end, and hopefully some light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the vaccination, we just want to put on record my thanks, the Leader of the Council's thanks, the Cabinet's thanks, and Gedling Borough Council's thanks to all residents and businesses, and also, if I may, on behalf of the Leader of the Council, to thank you, Mike, and every single member of staff in Gedling who have not only had to face, obviously, the difficulties that every family's had to face, and their own stress and strains in terms of the personal impact on their families and not see the loved ones, but have maintained frontline services in a very admirable way at a very, very difficult time. So if you could convey the Leader of the Council's thanks and everybody as an elected member, Mike, to all staff at Gedling Borough Council, I think they've done a sterling job and have really shown the very best of public service. I don't know if anybody else wanted to add anything else to those comments before I move on to formally approve the minutes. Anybody else wanted to come in at this stage?
Michael.
Jenny, just 2 seconds, Peter. Jenny Hollingsworth and then Councillor Peter Barnes.
Yeah, just absolutely echo everything you've said, Michael. And I think absolutely remarkable the way Gedling Borough staff and other statutory agencies, voluntary groups, individual volunteers have worked together to really meet the challenge that we've had in Gedling Borough. Reading the reports that Mike Hill sends out, it's really outstanding what people have done, and I think we owe them a huge debt of gratitude, every single one of them.
Thank you, Jenny. Councillor Peter Barnes.
I'd like to congratulate all the members of the staff. I think the depot in particular have had probably some of the worst jobs to do under this virus, and they've done extremely well. They've kept everybody informed on what they can put in the bins. We've collected everything on time, and we've had 1 or 2 people who've been ill, and they've all come back really well. And I think they've done extremely well. And I think we should praise all the members of the staff. I think this council's very, very lucky with the amount of goodwill we get from our staff. I think we should be on record of supporting every member of the staff on this Borough Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Any other cabinet members want to come in at this stage? If not, I'll bring in Chief Executive Mike Hill. Mike.
Thank you, Michael. I just want to thank the cabinet members for the kind comments, and I'll be sure to pass them on to staff. There are some directors here already today and staff. We have as you know, amazing group of individuals who work together as a collective team, and I'm very proud of them all. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike, and let me just also say on behalf of everybody in the cabinet and across the council, our thoughts obviously are with those who are no longer with us as a result of coronavirus. You know, this time of year is about friendship and family and seeing your loved ones, and there are some people who won't be able to join us this year because of the tragic impacts of COVID. So our hearts go out to all of those people who have tragically lost their life as well as part of this awful virus that has had a really bad impact on everybody. Okay, would somebody like to second formally second the minutes? Jenny, Councillor Hollingsworth, thank you. Are people happy to approve those as a correct record?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm seeing an indication unanimous approval. Thank you, everybody. Item 3 then is declaration of interests. Are there any declarations of interest from members or officers? Declarations of interest from members or officers. So we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, which is our only substantive item on the agenda today, which is the infrastructure funding statement, a report of the Community Infrastructure Levy and Section 106 monies monitoring officer. Mike, are you going to introduce this, or is it another officer? Mike,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Mike.
Leader. Lewis Widdowson, the Community Infrastructure Levy Officer, is going to introduce the report.
You, Lewis, welcome to the meeting, and over to you. And I'll start by saying, Councillor Hollings will say this, but thank you for a very, very good report. Over to you, Lewis.
Thank you, Deputy Leader, and good afternoon to everyone. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me or haven't met me yet, I'm the Council's SIL Officer, and I'm tasked with maintaining and operating the Community Infrastructure Levy and monitoring the Section 106 obligations and enforcing those contributions. The report came about on due to the amendments to the SIL regulations, which came through on the 1st of September 2019. And as part of those regulations, local authorities were required to publish an annual infrastructure funding statement in accordance with Regulation 121A and Schedule 2 of those amended regs. The infrastructure funding statement just provides a financial breakdown of planning obligations that were collected, expended and retained through the SIL and Section 106. And effectively the report split into 3 different sections, the first of which is a report on SIL receipts that were allocated and expended, the second a report on Section 106 receipts, and then third and finally a statement of infrastructure that's expected to be funded through planning obligations in the future. As I said, all local authorities who collect planning obligations through either SIL receipts or Section 106 contributions are obligated to publish an annual infrastructure funding statement. And the first of these has to be published no later than the 31st of December 2020. Within areas of 2-tier governance, such as a borough council and a county council, as is the case with Gedling, both the borough and the county councils must produce individual infrastructure funding statements. So in the capacity of Nottinghamshire County Council, they collect and expend their own education contributions and transport contributions through Section 106. So they will need to report on those through their own infrastructure funding statement, which will be published on their own website. The role, short sort of introduction as to what the role of the infrastructure funding statement was introduced for. It was primarily introduced as a tool to increase the transparency for stakeholders and general public regarding the public sector expenditure of SIL and Section 106 contributions. But more than this, the infrastructure funding statement can also provide a useful document which will support the wider planning and delivery framework by identifying infrastructure priorities which can help determine future local plan policies for the council. It will also provide guidance on larger strategic infrastructure which can then be utilised in cross-boundary discussions, studies or projects. In terms of planning for the future, going forward, it is somewhat unclear at this present time how SIL and Section 106 contributions will sit in relation to the planning system. New proposals to revamp the planning system are currently under review by the government as part of the Planning for the Future white paper. And while significant changes regarding planning obligations have been put forward, it is expected that the role of the infrastructure planning by councils will be as, if not more important than ever. And with this in mind, it's considered very important that a clear evidence base and an effective strategy going forward will be critical to infrastructure delivery across the borough in the future. The contents of the report are set out in Appendix A, which I believe starts on page, that's it, the first report, page 19 of the 1817 of the agenda pack, and it just sets out the relevant information in terms of the SIL receipts, the Section 106 contributions, and then, as I say, the breakdown of what future infrastructure will be provided by those planning obligations. It also includes non-monetary contributions that were secured through Section 106, so that includes the provision of affordable housing and also local employment skills plans, which are provided and adhered to through the development. In addition, as I said, there are planning obligations that are included at the end in terms of what development are going to be brought forward. At this point, I would like to note that one of the items included on table 15 at the end of the report on page 44, which is the Lamley Lane changing rooms, that project has actually been funded through the neighbourhood portion of the SIL and has already been granted and allocated. So that item shouldn't actually be included in that table on 15. So when we get to the recommendation, I would just seek to amend that if that's acceptable, so that the Cabinet agreed to the publication of the report with the amendment of table 15 to remove reference to the Lamley Lane changing rooms. So in terms of the recommendation is that the Cabinet note the contents of the report and agree to the publication of the statement in accordance with the regulations, but with the amendment to table 15 to remove reference to the Lamley Lane changing rooms. Thank you for listening. If there's any questions, I'll have to take them.
Thanks, Lewis, and thank you for your work on what may to the public seem like a very technical and dry issue, but actually, in essence, as you've elucidated today, is a really important way of funding important public services and public infrastructure within our area. With our communities, off the back of developments in housing. I will bring in Councillor Hollingsworth. Just a technical question, which Councillor Hollingsworth may be crossing Councillor Hollingsworth's mind. No issues in terms of the amendment that you've proposed, Lewis. Could you just clarify, if we're taking that out, is that a typographical mistake, or if it isn't, is that £35,000 up for being grabs to be allocated elsewhere, or is it a typographical mistake? If it is that there's £35,000, I think you might find that Councillor Hollingsworth's got a suggestion about where that might ought to be allocated. If you could just give an answer on that, and then I'll bring in Councillor. Yeah, absolutely. It is a typographical mistake. Yeah, the monies that are allocated to that have been already allocated, as I say, and that's covered in the item below it. So that's just typographical, and yeah, it just needs to be removed from it. Yeah. Okay, I thought that was going to be the answer, but I thought I'd try anyway. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Yes, you've asked the very question. Thank you. Just thank you to Lewis for a really clear report, easy to read. It's really good to see that we've increased the expenditure of 106 for the past 3 years running, and the tables set out very clearly how that money's been allocated. Good to see that Westdale Lane surgery received money towards a very much needed increase in their capacity, because clearly doctors' surgeries are getting busier, and with more housing we're going to need more capacity across the board. So that's good, and it's really nice to note the amount of affordable housing which we should be coming forward with the new developments. That's really good to see, so we look forward to that. I don't think there's really much else to say. It's such a clear report, but just to thank you for all the work, Lewis, that you've done on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Any other members of the Cabinet want to comment on this report, or any questions for Lewis? I'm not seeing any indication. So the recommendation before us is one, that Cabinet notes the report, and two, that Cabinet agrees to the publication of the infrastructure funding statement for 2019-20 as detailed at Appendix A, with the minor presentational amendment as set out by Lewis in introducing the report. I'll move the report. Councillor Hollingsworth, are you happy to second?
Absolutely, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Are people happy to approve?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm seeing unanimous approval for that recommendation. Thank you, Lewis, for an excellent and clear report, and for the work that you are continuing to do in this important area.
Thank you, Deputy Leader.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the forward plan, which is item 5 on our agenda. And we are to note the contents of the draft forward plan, making comments where appropriate. So this is a plan that sets out the forthcoming items for the Cabinet to be considering. Any comments or questions, suggestions, things that Cabinet think are perhaps missing, or ought to be being considered as we go forward on this report? I'm not seeing any indications from anybody, so I'll move the recommendation that Cabinet notes the contents of the draft forward plan, making comments where appropriate. Somebody happy to second? Councillor Hollingsworth, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Ellis as well. People happy to approve the recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That's unanimous agreement. And there is no other item that I've been notified as the Vice Chair of the committee standing in for the Leader of the Council. Are there any other things that people wanted to raise in today's meeting? Anything from you, Mike? No? Okay. We'll await the outcome of deliberations that the Leader of the Council is involved in relation to the tier system and the review that's up and coming, and the hard work is reflected. Councillor Gregory, did you want to come in?
Yeah, if I can just bring something which basically will be under any other business. What we've been working on, which everybody is pretty well aware of at the moment, is the Christmas programme for Arnold and the town centres. With the COVID-19, it was very, very hard to try to follow legislation that was, shall we be polite and say, sketchy at the most and the least, to try and do something, and to try and offer something instead of doing what we normally do. Gedling staff have shone through yet again on, at very short notice, organising a different approach and a different way of doing town centre activities over the Christmas period. And I think that we've got to synchronise the light switch-ons, which went online. Communications was organising that, so that one to, none of this was a 5-minute decision to do, and it took quite a few hours and headaches from the staff. The Dean was involved with the main switch on lights in Arnold, which is a good one, and that is on YouTube if anybody wants to listen to it. We've still got the small festive fair on Eagle Square, which is going very well. I went down at the weekend, and under to other areas, people was behaving themselves and organising themselves properly and actually doing what they was asked to do in the first place. So that's gone down as a positive. The Mayor's Christmas card appeal, that's online at the moment with the children that's done the drawings as they normally do. As far as I know, they're going to be displayed in the town centre in Arnold, in the shops, and some of the boards outside and around the civic centre. The festive food distribution parcels is gone to, or is going to go to, over 500 identified families who are more in need, and supported by partners and volunteers to distribute this food. So they are aware of, they have been asking and working on who's doing the rest of it. And also, just to finish off, I'd like to pass my and record my thanks to the officers involved. I'm not going to name them all because they'll know who they are and I might miss somebody out, but I've got a few that I know are in. So if I've missed anybody out, then, you know, it's not personal. There's Lance Jubby, Jane Ansell, Sarah Cook and Julie Clark. And from Economic Growth, Joel Davis, Lee Sycamore, Catherine Banning, Anna Glover, and the past team with John Clayton. And communications is back under Rob McCleary and Nathan Greenwood and Frankie Lee. And I think these people have done an absolute fantastic and well worth job. To say that it's something new, it's worked, no problems with it, and it's back to Gedling being the forerunner of other things again. So thank you very much.
Well said, Councillor Gregory. And, you know, let me just also, I'll bring you in, Councillor Crossan. Let me just add my thanks as well, Gary. I think, you know, you touched on the parcels, the food parcels and Christmas parcels that are going to be helping and assisting 500 families. And that clearly couldn't have happened without the generosity of the residents of Gedling, who in the short space of 2 or 3 days raised £10,000, which is just a stellar effort and shows the real community spirit that exists within our borough. And I think you really absolutely hit the nail on the head, Gary. Credit to you as a cabinet member and all of the team behind you, all of the staff in Gedling, who I think have brought a real bit of festive joy and cheer at what has been otherwise been a tremendously difficult few months for everybody. I think it's been an outstanding job. I think you've struck the right balance. And I think you're really right to say, Gary, that people have been safe, people have respected social distancing, and we continue to call on them to do that, to make sure that we all protect each other. And I think particularly those chaps, John Clayton and the small team who have been going around putting up the lights and the Christmas trees at all sorts of hours in all sorts of difficult weather, really do deserve our thanks. But everybody has played a really, really stellar effort under pressure while they've got to be doing the day job as well to make Christmas at least a degree of normality in what otherwise has been a really challenging time. So well done, Gary, in your portfolio, and well done to the entire team who you've referenced. It's Gedling Borough Council with our residents and businesses going above and beyond again, and it really shows the very best of the community spirit that exists in the borough that's helped get us through this tremendously difficult year. So I would echo all of that, Gary. Very, very well said. Councillor McCrossan.
Yeah, can I just echo again absolutely everything that's said, and just to say that again, the sterling effort from our community to raise such a large amount of money to ensure that children are fed at Christmas and have a Christmas with, you know, with food in the cupboards, when we know that families are absolute destitute at the moment and children are really suffering. I'd also like to give my thanks to the Play Forum, who have had a lot of bereavements over this period, but they are putting together activity packs for children and young people to be given out with our food packs, to have some activities to do over the Christmas time. And you know, they've really pulled out the plugs. They're struggling themselves. They've got a lot of elderly volunteers, and I just want to you know, say thank you to them. And you know, that's a brilliant effort. So thank you.
Thank you, Viv. And she might be listening on the call, Peter, but a huge thank you to Madam Mayor as well. I thought her message of hope and optimism at the light switch on was absolutely superb, and I thought she brought a real sense of happiness and hope at what's been a really, really difficult time. And I know many of the young children really loved seeing Sandra's smiling face and the joy that she brings. So very well done, Madam Mayor, as well, for a job well done as usual. Okay, I think that's everything on the agenda. So I think it probably just remains to say on behalf of the leader of the council and everybody at Gedling Borough Council, to all of our residents and businesses and all of our staff and all elected members, have a really happy new year and a nice Christmas. And please do look after yourselves and look out for your loved ones as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.